Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me again this week. We are in June, and June's a really special month. And why is it a special month, you may ask? First of all, on June 24th, this podcast turns a year old. That's an incredible milestone. I can't believe that it's been a year that we've been doing this, and that's incredibly exciting and exhilarating to me. Second, also on June 24th, I turned 50. That is also a milestone. Both of those milestones I cannot wait to celebrate with you. For our 1-year anniversary show, I want to involve all of you. So if you want to be on the show, let me know, contact me, and we'll cook up something special. So as for this week's guest, she is fascinating. We have such an interesting conversation. It's provocative, it's edgy, it makes you think a little bit, and some of it might push your bounds a little bit, but ultimately, I found it so intelligent and something to think about and consider from a different point of view. I hope it does all of that for you too. I cannot wait to hear what you think. So without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for joining me again this week. You guys are in for an amazing treat and opportunity to meet this woman today. I am with Diahnna Baxter, and just hear what her accomplishments are. Diahnna is an Emmy Award-winning actress, writer, producer. She is a Duke graduate. She is a certified transformational coach that dedicates her time and her energy in helping women not only heal from trauma, but transform and thrive from trauma. I am so excited for you to meet her. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Diahnna Baxter. Diahnna, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here. And I just love, your mission behind the show of uniting women so that we can live our dream lives and support each other while doing it. So thank you for having me.
It is definitely my pleasure. I am super excited to talk to you about this amazing, provocative topic. As when you and I spoke and we met each other and I explained to you my mission, one of the things that we talked about was this really amazing surge in this movement that women are starting to walk away from this historical, cultural thought of being each other's competition and being each other's best asset. And you said something to me that I haven't been able to get out of my head. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is that you said that what we're shifting from is this idea of competition and shifting to creativeness and creativity and how that puts goodness out into the world. And I want to know, what do you mean by that? Like I said, that is such an amazing thought that I'd never even considered.
Yes. Well, I think, up until now, first and foremost, like you said, we are in an amazing time. It's also, a rebirthing is what I call it, and many others would, of the planet, really, and the consciousness just of humanity. And for a long time, the feminine, the receptive, the communal, the creative has been repressed in a lot of ways. And we're really seeing that rise right now. So up until now, we've been programmed in a lot of ways that in order to succeed, power means you have to compete and step over or on somebody to get to the next thing. And women especially, till this day in advertising, we're being told constantly that we're not enough. We're, with social media, we have all of this comparison that's happening. Oh, this person lives this lifestyle. This person looks like this. You have little girls, with filters online, thinking that they're not beautiful, quote unquote, enough, so that they want to cut up their faces or change the way they look online. I mean, there's just so much coming at us. And at the same time, we're seeing women's circles coming up, people talking about the divine feminine rising. We're seeing people, unite and share each other's information on social media, partnering up, all of these things. So when we look at it, competition is the old way. Competition is the way that has been programmed since colonial times, right? It's this divide and conquer mentality. Actually make people believe that they are separate from each other, that they are other from each other, that they are more unalike than they are alike. And we can feed them that, and they will keep themselves in constant conflict, thinking that in order to thrive, they have to compete with each other, when that's really a lie.
Absolutely. I mean, we see that over and over and over again. And like you said, in every single aspect of our lives, we can't turn on our TV without seeing it. We can't open a magazine if we open magazines anymore. But it's there. It's constantly there. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that that's not normal and that's not natural. And so I know you're talking about the rise of this divine feminine. Will you define that for me? Because I have not heard that term. I know that it's referred to in many different ways. Mm-hmm. And once you define it, we might be able to recognize and go, okay, now I know what she's talking about. So yes. Will you tell us a little bit more of what that means?
Yes. So when I talk about the divine feminine, I'm not necessarily talking about gendered, right? All of us carry masculine and feminine energy. And when we're talking about the context of competition or the old, imperialistic colonial notion of how to separate people, the feminine was repressed. So when I talk about divine feminine, I'm talking about creativity. I'm talking about receptivity. I'm talking about sharing. I'm talking about nurturing. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about the energy of creating something out of nothing. And if we do look at it as far as just even as women in a woman's body, if we are going to gender it in that sense, and we look at the body and we talk about the womb space, right? This is the space where energetically is the space for creativity, right? If you look at Carl Jung and all of his things, if you look at thousands of years of yogic philosophy, we're talking about the second chakra energy in the womb space. This is the place where all ideas are birthed, as well as babies are birthed. Everything's birthed here. And when women are not in contact, in good relationship with this space, we also find that women aren't able to be fully expressed. Because when we are fetuses as women, the tissue that forms our throats and our womb come from the same cell. So,
what?
Yes.
What? I had no idea.
Yes. So part of the, and I know I'm kind of talking in circles here, but part of the divine feminine, what's the difference from feminine and divine feminine? Well, if we look at, especially in the context of talking about competition, right? In this old abnormal way of being, the feminine, the toxic feminine, we hear a lot about toxic masculinity, but there's a toxic feminine as well. The toxic feminine is manipulative, believes that she's separate, has to compete with other women, believes that her body is only in service to other, usually uses her body in ways, if we look at a prostitute archetype, uses her body in ways to gain things from the outward, doesn't believe she has her power within her. This is the toxic feminine. Divine feminine knows that everything she needs is within her. The power lies within her when she actually takes care of herself, when she allows herself to receive pleasure in her mundane activities, all the way from her sensual activities, when she actually allows the reciprocity, the law of of circulation, to just like the breath, when we receive in the inhale and give with the exhale, the divine feminine understands that balance. And first and foremost, she's the master of the unknown. The womb space is that dark space that everything comes from, right? So even if we look at that like in space, like the black hole, right? That is the divine feminine. It's where everything is birthed from. So the divine feminine is not afraid of the unknown. She knows that she's not disconnected from life, capital L itself. That life itself is always, always wanting to expand and evolve. And so she doesn't need to control how it's going to look. She's intentional, and she takes each step and knows that she will be guided. So she doesn't have to control others. She doesn't have to compete with others. She actually gets quiet, taps into herself, gets past the noise of social media, of advertising, of, limiting beliefs, of cultural beliefs, of things she grew up with parental beliefs, and starts to listen to her own vessel. And that is where she starts to live fully from her power.
Well, my brain is just going a million miles a minute because I've got all these questions. So let me focus on the first one. So the first one is that you're saying this has nothing to do with gender. So you're telling me, even though you're referring it to the feminine because it comes from creativity, you're saying that this is possible for men too, not just women. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. I'm saying that, well, I'm kind of biased because I always say there's nothing beyond woman except God. And when I say God, I don't mean a Santa Claus in the sky. Whatever you believe, right? You might be Buddha, Allah, universe, nature, whatever. But because the woman's body itself is set to birth, right? Like without a woman, there is no life. So yet men, and I really am starting to see this. I'm starting to see spaces for men to come into, which we desperately need. Men, because we've been rooted in this old, very white, patriarchal, colonial, imperialistic mindset that we hear so much about toxic masculinity, but it's because men have not been given the permission to be vulnerable. They have not been given the permission to actually tap into their divine feminine energy. All of us have masculine and feminine in us. And I used to operate purely from my masculine, right? Overachiever. Go get this. Go get the straight A's. Go get, like, the doing is what gives me my worth. It's backwards. For us to thrive, it's really in our being, women especially. But yes, masculine and feminine does exist in men. And when we see everything that's happening in the world right now with violence, with, I could go on and on. But when we see that is a form of toxic masculinity, but it doesn't mean that masculinity is toxic. It's just that it's backwards, once again. And it's rooted in a deep fear of the divine feminine. Why
do you think that is? Because it has the ability to create life?
Yes.
Do you think that's it? Because you fear what you can't control? Or do you think that's
fear the unknown? You fear the unknown, and divine feminine is the unknown. It's what births new worlds. And we have an opportunity right now to birth a new world, a new consciousness, something that is not in reaction to all of the isms, something that is not in reaction to all of the old institutions. We have that ability right now. And men need this permission to be vulnerable just as much as women do. And I'm, one of my coaches is Preston Smiles, and he has something called Man Cave and provides spaces for men like that. And I've learned so much from him. And being a survivor of a lot of violence from men, I've had to do a lot of work around that, because to me, man meant violence, can't trust, not safe space, what have you. And I had to look at even ways that I was operating in my own toxic masculinity energetically.
That it's interesting that you say that, because I'm a type A personality, and I used to be really, really proud of that. Mm-hmm. That was an interesting thing, and an interesting shift for me, is that I used to be proud of being this driver, this type A personality, this blinders on, you call the goal, I'll hit it, I'll smash it. I used to be very, very proud of that. And then I realized that it was destructive. And it was destructive not only to me, probably especially to me, but I didn't know it, but to others around me. And I was missing so much to the point where I'm find myself on a quest that I must create. I have to create. I'm always in this space of having to create. My podcast is only one way, but I'm leaning into these opportunities for creativity. I taught myself how to crochet because I wanted to be able to make something and weave something out of nothing. I'm taking a sewing class because I'm fascinated by that ability. And again, that's an opportunity to create. I'm stretching my cooking abilities. I'm constantly pushing myself into this creative space because it feels like I've ignored it for a really long time. And the more I lean into it, the more I feel like I want to lean into it. And the reason why I say all of this is because it's not something that I can help. It's like I'm compelled to do it. And I think that it's connected to this rise, as you say, of this divine feminine. And I think that it's happening because I think there are many people out there like me that I can't, and I am not going to say that it's just women, because I also see this in men too, that they've been suppressing this feeling of creativity for so long that it's coming out of their pores, which is why I think I recognize this shift in this collective creativeness, this need to surround each other, especially amongst women, that we are feeling this need to link arms with each other and say, you know what, Diahnna, it's totally okay if you want to go create something and I'm behind you. And you may have a different viewpoint than I do. I may not agree with you on everything, but I'm going to love you anyway. So I think that there is that's coming about. I don't know if I'm on track, but I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts and your opinion on that from what I'm acknowledging within myself and what I'm starting to recognize in the world.
Thank you for sharing that. First and foremost, I think it's a couple of things you said. One, that you used to pride yourself off being a type A personality. And I don't think there's anything wrong with type A personality, but I think we've been told, and I call it overachiever mindset, what have you. I was the same way. I used to wear the busy badge proudly. What are you doing? I'm busy. I'm busy.
Exactly.
Like proud of it. Like, I'm busy,
Yes.
And before I knew it, it's like you blink, 20 years is gone and you haven't really been enjoying the journey. And I'm a creative, right? I'm an actress.
Yeah.
But I still was operating from that mindset. So it is about harmony, right? We need both. You need you need the masculine, who is the action, who is the one that gives you the form to get the goals done, but you need the flow of the feminine. So, and I love that you shared that it's not just the podcast, right? I think in the United States, especially, we talk about, I need to be creative, but then we're like, okay, that means I have to produce an Oscar-winning film, or if I get a sewing machine, that means I need to be a fashion designer. No, it's like, what is calling you? What's fun for you? What are you curious about? Right? Like allowing that space. And then just look at the word creativity. It has the word create in it, creator. Like it is the energy to tap into where you feel most alive. And that's, there is nothing more better. There's no drug that can give you that. Like there's something about being alive that you're not just going to the next thing, reacting to whatever comes up and getting through the day, right? And mind you, we're all human. We have those days, no judgment. But there's something about what creativity does for you when you actually start to listen to those parts of yourself, which really is your little girl inside, who's like, can I please play? I just want to play, right? She's also the one who comes out and like throws temper tantrums from wounded trauma, but we have to take care of her and honor her. The only way, it's in honoring our humanity that we align with our divinity.
Yeah, like I said, I will recognize that and acknowledge that and tell everybody that my favorite day of the week is Thursday evenings, because that's when I go to sewing class. And not only is it creative, It's community. There is this energy in the room when there are these women and there's one man that are in this room learning and creating and commiserating about our mistakes together. And, none of us are getting frustrated at all. I think we're all stepping back and remembering to enjoy the journey. I have a friend of mine that was my very first guest on this show. And she has reminded me for years, which I didn't pay attention until recently, when she said, Audra, it's never about the goal. Ever about the goal. That is never the most important thing. Although the goal is important, it's not the most important. She's like, it's always the journey. And she says it takes some wisdom to finally figure that out. And I think that in this year, I have finally slowly figured that out, because I've been able to engage with other women that have started to finally slowly figure that out. And I have a theory about why our world right now is at such a clash. And I think that is because there, as you said, there is a repression of this creative side, because you can literally create something from nothing. And that can terrify people. And change is scary. So you see this rise of people saying, I can't do the same thing that I've been doing all this time because there's a part of me that is miserable. Maybe there's a large part of me that is miserable. But then there's another group of people that says, change scares me. And I can't, and it's not predictable. And I don't know what that means for me. So I think I want to just stay in this space. So that is why there is this clash of individuals. And I don't think in the main, I don't think that on either one of these sides that there are these horrible people at the core. I think that what happens is that there's fear that takes over, which makes us separate. And that's what creates this clash. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes. At the core of all of clashing is the belief in separateness. Do I think that the clash that's happening has been going on for a long time? Absolutely. It's the difference is, we talk about it within yogic philosophy. We look at different ages, right? We're now in the Aquarian age. We came out of the Piscean age. Piscean age was very much about God is outside of me. The teacher knows what's best for me. My guru is the one, I always have to have an intermediary between me and my own power. Aquarian age, veil's lifted. There's no hiding. All the truth is coming out about everything and everyone. There's just no hiding anymore. And it's overstimulation of information, not even knowledge, but information. So you're having to rely on your inner guru and really start, which is in that creative space, and really start listening and having discernment. I have some hope because I know that there's no going back, meaning a lot of people are waking up to the truth, whether or not, and that doesn't mean the truth. I'm talking about truth with a capital T, not a small t. All of us have different opinions, but really to the truth. You can't ignore this shit anymore. That I have some hope, and rebirth is messy. Any mother that's given birth knows it's shitty, it's bloody, it's painful, it's all of that. And we're in the beginnings of it. So it's not going to get better before it gets worse. And I think all of us have a responsibility to really, really look within ourselves. In what ways have we as women adopted mindsets of toxic masculinity, separateness, competitiveness, otherness? In what ways look in the mirror. And this is for everybody because we've all grown up with this programming. We have to get vigilant, ruthless with ourselves, and then compassionate with ourselves, and then ask, who am I going to be? Who am I being in this world? Right? And the clash it's like paradigms, right? Paradigms just a set of beliefs. When you talk about somebody who wins the lottery and then they lose it in 3 years, and we'll talk about a money paradigm, just to give an example. People are like, how they got all that money and now they're back to being poor or what have you. And it's yeah, they might have had the money, the physical, but their mindset, right? They had a limiting mindset, their core beliefs, subconscious beliefs even, didn't really believe they deserved it or had beliefs around money. Money's not good. Money is the root of evil, all of that. So they're going to lose it. Same thing is happening right now. We're moving out of an old paradigm that says the American way is this. Okay, what does it look like to really let go of that old paradigm and coming to something new? And you're right. People are scared. People are scared of change, especially when they might believe that that change will threaten their livelihood.
They're afraid. My opinion is and it's the same thing when I see competition between women, is that if they win, that automatically means I lose. And I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that if you, Diahnna, win, that means that there's less for me. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for anybody. I don't believe that there is less for somebody just because somebody else gains something. I don't think that the pie, if you will, has a finite amount of opportunity. I think that the opportunities are infinite.
I agree.
We've just been programmed to think that they are finite. Exactly. And it's not true. It is absolutely not true. Yep. So what I wanted to ask you to help us get really focused and really quiet here for a second, because we can all agree on this. Women create life, because that is just simply biology.
Yep.
If women create life, that means that women can create opportunity, which means that women, and I do believe this, that women will help us lead into whatever this next evolution is. And you said that we have to understand who we are or who we want to be in this world. So will you step us through what that looks like? And I mean small steps, because people are going to listen to this and they're going to go, I don't do yoga. I'm not entirely sure if I understand all this. I don't know what astronomy is or astrology. I don't know what any of that means. But I do understand that things need to change and evolve. And I know that it needs to start with me.
Yes.
So how can we as women get quiet and start to get real honest with ourselves and start to evolve little steps at a time?
It's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I think the key, like you said, is to get quiet, right? And some of us, you yourself as a mother and parents and jobs, and sometimes it can feel like there is no time. And it is absolutely imperative that we give from a cup that overfloweth. So first and foremost, carve out time for yourself. Even if that is 30 minutes a day, even if maybe you don't even have that, do 15 to get quiet. When I say get quiet, some people that's taking a jog and that's meditative for them. Some people it's literal meditation. Some people it's taking out a journal. But carve out time for yourself, to be with yourself. So many of us are running around trying to escape ourselves. So carve out that time to be with yourself first and foremost. And then really get honest with yourself about your longings and discontent. Where are you? What is keeping you up at night? Where do you know that your life is not really in alignment with what you would love? And write it down in every area. Your relationships, not just romantic, but relationships with your partners, friends, family, relationships, vocation or career or purpose, health, and time and money freedom. Really look at that. What do you long for? What doesn't feel good anymore? Where do you feel like this is not where I want to be or who I want to be being? Write it down. And then once you take a look at that, you can say, okay, is this discontent? Is this even mine? A lot of times we're carrying over from what we've been handed down from our own mothers. I always have my clients as a transformational coach look at their relationship with their mothers. And you could have had a great relationship with your mother. but listing the qualities that you love, that you have inherited from her, and ones possibly that you need to do some forgiveness around, and that you're not liking what you carried on. Because some of the choices that we've made in our life is because we thought that's what we should be doing, rather than what really, really we desire to be doing. So being honest with yourself, really looking at that. And then taking out that quiet time to dive into what would you love. I find so many women that come to me haven't even allowed themselves to ask themselves that question. They don't even think it's possible anymore, or they haven't allowed themselves to dream in a long time. And once we do that, we're not living anymore. We're just existing. It's like you said earlier, it is never about the goal. Yeah, it's about the journey, but it's really about who do you become? And it's you becoming more of yourself, more of who you've longed to be, because you're already there. Growth is really about letting go of the beliefs that no longer serve you, the limitations that you've placed on yourself about what is possible. So carving out time for yourself, and that could be many different activities, but getting quiet, carving out time for yourself, making a list, being really honest, looking at what you're not, quote unquote, happy with anymore in your life. And then looking at the limiting beliefs that are behind that. Are you blaming anyone? Is it their fault? Because I'm going to tell you right now, no one owes you shit. No one owes you anything. The first thing we must do as women is be 100% responsible for our lives. And that doesn't mean that you've never been a victim or that things didn't happen to you. Believe me, I am a survivor of sexual abuse, sexual assault, all kinds of stuff. And I am the director of my own film. That is my life. So what am I choosing from this moment forward? Own it. Take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility. Then dive into that vision. What would I love? And some things might not come up at first. I get on calls sometimes and it's silence when I ask people that, and it's kind of like, okay, let's breathe. And if it's 3 years from now, and as if you had a magic wand, it's 3 years from now, everything worked out. Your mind's going to try to go, but how did it? Just put that how on hold for a minute. Everything is worked out. You're living the life of your dreams. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that smell like? What does that taste like? And see what starts to come up for you. And that's going to be different for everybody, right? Because we're all a unique emanation. We're all uniquely made and created. There's no one else on the planet like you. For some people, it might be like, I just want a tiny home or on some land and live a very simple life. For some people, it might be, I want a 7-house mansion, whatever it is, right? Or I want a relationship where I feel seen and heard and appreciated, And then once you have that vision, start to make a list of what you're grateful for right now. Because I guarantee you, parts of that vision that is coming up through you, you're already living some of it. You're just not paying attention to it. What we pay attention to grows. What we appreciate appreciates, just like money. That's law, right? So in gratitude, being grateful, and not being grateful because we're supposed to be good girls and you're supposed to be grateful. No. Gratitude even if it's a shitty situation you're in right now, find a way to be in gratitude. Find 3 things you're grateful for in that moment. And start to practice that daily. Results don't take time. They take courage. I don't know how many clients I've had, they've quit their jobs by the end of working with me. They've found, created a new opportunity for themselves. Some have found a partner or they've left a partner, but once we start the game is really falling in love with yourself again. That's the game. And something else that I have my clients do is to always work with their little girl selves. What do I mean by that? I mean to literally get a picture of yourself from the ages, usually I don't go past 9 years old, If there's been any trauma before that, go before the trauma. Get that picture. Start to sit with her. Start to be curious about her. Ask her what she needs. What does play look like for you? What does pleasure look like for you? I know for myself, the amount I allow myself to play and actually have moments in the day. I like to look at my days as moments now, not even like a day. Okay, today is Monday. I've got to get this done. Like, no, what energy do I want to be in today? What moments do I want to create today? And my play, the amount of play and pleasure I allow in my life is always directly reflects in my bank account. I used to think it was the other way around. The more I do and get, the more money. Nope. You got to do, so you can't just sit and be like, oh, I love this, and I'm not going to do anything. But it's play and pleasure. And in all of this, the daily practice of forgiveness. First and foremost, for yourself. Forgive yourself if it's about, I've waited so long. Why haven't I done this for myself yet? Forgive yourself. It's okay, beloved. You're still breathing. It's never too late. Forgive yourself for staying in the relationship for so long. Forgive yourself for all of that. Right now, even as you listen, right now is the first moment of the rest of your life. And you're capable and you're powerful and you can create a life that you love. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be challenges. That's part of what we signed up for to be here, right? There's always going to be challenges. But when those challenges come from a place of, you know what? First of all, I'm willing to receive support in order to face this challenge. I think a lot of us women don't ask for support, and we're relearning how to receive. And I trust myself enough because I've forgiven myself. I've been honest with myself. I've taken 100% responsibility for my life, that I can trust myself. I can depend on myself. I trust myself enough that I can get through this. So I hope those were small enough steps, but for me, those are kind of the key things that I always work with. And that time, that quiet time, and try to do it every day. Listen, I don't do my practice every day. Sometimes I fall off. It's okay, right? Be kind to yourself. Watch how you speak to yourself. Everything's created twice, first in thought, then in form, right? So watch how you speak to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself as you would your little girl self or your child. But every day, taking out that time for yourself. Your life will change just by doing that. And if it's not, it doesn't necessarily need to be some huge ritual or what have you. Maybe it's, I want to go to some garden and smell some flowers. Go take yourself out on a date. You know, some people it is getting quiet, but some people actually just need to get out of their immediate space and go on a mini adventure with yourself. That could be walking a different way around the neighborhood. It can be something so simple. And with the gratitude, start to look for evidence of the beauty in your life. That could be this plant that's behind me right now. It could be everything around you right now has already been created. This is the launching point for the rest of your life. And you get to create anything and everything you want and desire. The word desire comes from, and I believe it comes from, it means from the Father, right? And if we're looking at, Judaism, Christianity, all of that, from the Father, meaning like from the heavens, right? If your imagination is able to, if it's something that really turns you on, I always tell my clients, if it doesn't make your pussy tingle, like it's not big enough, like it's not. And when I say big, like it's not truly from you. It's just you think you want these things, right? Because we're programmed into wanting more and more and more and more and more. But when you start to really get quiet with yourself and be like, what would I love? What would I really love? 3 years from now, everything's worked out. What does that look like? What does that smell like? What does that taste like? When you start to tap into that, what starts to come through you, that is it is not that it's possible, it's probable if you allow yourself to be guided and just take the extra steps and try not to worry about the how and find and receive support. And that support Other women, there's nothing more magical than that.
I agree.
Yeah.
And first I want to say thank you for giving us those detailed steps, because many people, myself included, had zero idea of where to start.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving some guidance. The
Sure.
second thing I will say is that if you figure out how to love yourself and love where you're going, hate can't exist in the same space as love.
Mm-hmm.
So if people started to take time to love themselves, I don't think that there would be nearly as much conflict as there is right now, because the two can't exist in the same space. They just can't.
There,
You can't feel two things at the same time.
yes, I think, the biggest gift we can give the world is healing ourselves and loving ourselves. Because once again, we're not separate. My healing is benefiting the rest of the planet. And when we are healed, we're not healed alone. So it is the biggest gift you can give to the world, is to start to honor yourself, love yourself. And that is a practice. That's another thing, right? Like us type A overachievers, right? We're like, okay, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to take the bubble bath. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to get a mentor. I'm going to get a therapist. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, I'm healed. I'm fixed. Now what? It's like, no. Until your last breath, it's a practice. It's a practice. And though, what happens is you get better and better at not beating yourself up when you make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes, which does what? It makes you more compassionate for whoever else is in your life. Because at the end of the day, all of us have our shit. All of us are suffering to some extent. Like, all of us have that inner critic. All of us have those crippling self-doubts. But the more and more you practice what it is to fall deeply in love with yourself, to be your own best friend, to be the mother to yourself that perhaps you didn't have as a little girl, the more and more you practice that, the more pleasurable life gets, the less you worry when things do come up, because you can actually look back and be like, you know what, there's so much proof. It all works out. I don't need to get myself up in a tizzy, or easier said than done, right? But it becomes easier. You don't get thrown off your center so much. Life, you don't get caught up in just the winds of life and get blown every which way. You get anchored in your center. You know who the fuck you are. And my belief is, and we all have different beliefs around spirituality, but I believe that we are unique emanations of spirit. And the way that we show up in our purpose on this planet is that we get out of the way and allow ourselves to be used. And creativity is the key. Like I said, it has the word create. It's creator. It's the way that we are used to our optimal potential on this planet, is to allow ourselves to tap into that space. And inherently, I believe it ties into our liberation as human beings.
I have learned so much from you in this conversation, the conversation that we had prior to this interview. I find this fascinating, and I find that much of what you've have spoken about with me today, I've been doing for a year but didn't even know it.
Yes,
it's been an amazing journey, and I, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being here. If the audience wanted to get in contact with you, what is the best way that they can get in contact with you?
Okay, first, I want to celebrate you, Audra. I want to celebrate you. This is the other thing. Celebrate yourself. We don't celebrate ourselves. We don't. We wait until we get the big thing or the big promotion. Or no, celebrate yourself. Like you said, you've been doing this without knowing you're doing it, because you've been listening to yourself. You've been, okay, there's the next step. I'm following the guidance. I just want to celebrate you for that. That is, and do something for yourself today and celebrate yourself for that, please. And continue to celebrate yourself. There was one other thing I wanted to say, but that's okay. So transformation, right? I'm a transformational life coach. What does that mean? At the end of the day, the game is also expanding your identity. We're constantly as people, hopefully, going through cycles of death, rebirth, and life again. And part of you allowing yourself to become who you truly are is allowing old ideas of yourself to die. So death is a part of the growth as well. So you can find me on Instagram at Diahnna Nicole. So that's DIAHNNANICOLE. And you can also find me on Facebook, same, Diahnna Nicole Baxter. Or you can find me at my website where everything is listed, from my acting work, my filmmaking, as well as my coaching and my Kundalini yoga. And that's at DiahnnaNicoleBaxter.com.
Like I said, thank you so much. And before I let you run, I need to ask you this question, because people will scream at me if I don't, because I have forgotten to do it twice and they're like, you forgot to ask the question. So I'll ask the question. The question is, what book have you read that you think everybody should read?
Ooh, that is such a great question. I'm such a book junkie.
I know. I can see the books behind you. And
there's a whole other bookcase over there. Wow.
Because I have an audience full of book lovers. And when I don't ask this question, I hear about it. So I want to make sure I ask you.
Wow. That is tough. Can I say two but different books?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
There's one book that was really pivotal to my spiritual growth. Like literally in 2002, I got this book from my aunt. It's called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss, Myss. And she is a doctor, and she really looks at the mind, spirit, body connection. And it just blew my mind. It was kind of the beginnings of me coming into that connection, right? And the other one would be Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Oh,
it's one of my favorites of all time. And I feel like, especially during this time, people need to read it.
It'll make you cry. I'll tell you that much. Yes. I read it 10 plus years ago. Bald. Mm-hmm. Beautiful book. So
yes. Don't watch the movie. I've never watched the movie.
I haven't either.
Read the book. Don't watch the movie.
Yeah. I haven't watched the movie either.
I never will. And I love you, Oprah, but no. That book was not meant to be made into a movie. Yeah.
Like I said, I cannot thank you enough for being here with me. I knew that our conversation was going to be interested and provocative. It will probably make people think. It might even upset some people, but that's okay. Awesome. Because I want you guys to consider the idea of creativity over competition. And this is a great place to start. Diahnna, thank you again so much for being here. If you have the time, I would love to have you back and we can dive into some other topics.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you for having me, Audra. And yeah, I can't wait to come back.
I'm so excited. Thank you all again for joining me this week, and we'll see you again next time. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for being here this week. I want to say sincerely thank you to all of you for your support and your continued encouragement as we continue on this journey that I never expected. The reality is that I can't do this without you, and I wouldn't want to. I do this because I want to make us all better. I want to create a community where we feel heard, where we feel supported, and we are celebrated. And we are doing that every single day, and it's just getting better. And I want to hear from all of you. So please connect with me. And you can connect with me on any one of our social pages. And you can reach me at Audra, which is AUDRA, at womeninthearena.net. Please send me whatever you need. If you need help, if you need resources, if you want to make a referral, I want to know. So please connect with me because I can't wait to talk to you. Thank you again for being here and your support. And I can't wait to do it again next week. So we'll see you again next time.
This is just the beginning.
That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.